Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Newsroom. I'm your host, Umar Khalba. Today is the 3rd of January 2023, and these are the stories that we will be discussing in detail during the course of our show. We will begin with with all the statements that have come in the aftermath of the meeting of the NSC that was held yesterday. This was the second round of the meeting of the NSC that was held yesterday in the wake of all the incidents that have plagued Pakistan, whether it be in the form of terrorist incidents or in the form of the situation that is on the economic front. Now, different decisions have been taken. Also, our Prime Minister says that there's going to be a zero tolerance policy as far as terrorists are concerned. Peace, he said, is non-negotiable. He said this on social media, that is on Twitter. How important are these statements? Although also the statement by our Defence Minister Khaja Asif Saab, who has said that the defunct organization of TTP is operating from the Afghan soil to spread terrorism in parts of Pakistan. This and more statements are going to be discussed in the aftermath of the NSC, and also how the nation needs to move forward in order to curb all such incidents of terrorism, and also to curtail the issues that are emanating because of the economic issues that plague the country. This is going to be our first story. Our second story, ladies and gentlemen, concerns the different variants of coronavirus that we have gotten to know of, that have emerged in China, and the fear that a lot of people have in Pakistan as to whether these will spread in Pakistan or not. Although there are no confirmed, proper confirmed, the cases of these new variants that are, of course, the BF7 and also another variant that is the XBB. Nevertheless, the fact remains that these are new variants, and the BF7 is highly virulent variant, although it does not cause death, but it causes the infection in people very, very rapidly. So how should the government move forward under the current circumstances? And also we will talk about the NIH that has taken different decisions in that respect. And finally, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to talk about the Khaja Asif Sahab, who has announced that the federal cabinet has approved the National Energy Efficiency and Conservation Plan. This is a policy that is aimed at saving energy in the whole wake of the economic issues that are pertaining to our country, and a lot of different measures have been put forward that we will be discussing during the course of this third story. Let's begin with our first segment, and that concerns terrorism, economy, Pakistan and the NSC. We all know that the second round of the NSC was convened yesterday. A lot of important decisions were taken as a result of that. Those decisions were revealed last evening, and we've had statements by our Premier as well as Khaja Asif as to terrorism, and how there is going to be zero tolerance policy for terrorists, and also that the terrorists of belonging to the TTP are operating from the Afghan soil. More in the following report.
Is confronted with the specter of resurgent militancy, and the return of terrorism has aggravated our security challenges. The latest wave of terrorism necessitated collective resolve and comprehensive strategy to combat the scourge of militancy. A meeting of National Security Committee, the highest civil military forum of decisions on matters pertaining to national security, was chaired by Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif. The NSC huddle reiterated that no country will be allowed to provide sanctuaries and facilitation to terrorists, and Pakistan reserves all rights to safeguard its people. The 40th meeting of NSC held in Islamabad vowed to respond firmly to resurgent terrorism in the country and declared militants as enemies of Pakistan. Emphasizing the importance of economic sovereignty, the forum underscored the comprehensive national security revolves around economic security. Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif emphasized that war against terrorism will be led by federal and provincial governments as per National Action Plan in accordance with National Internal Security Policy. Defense Minister Khaja Mohammad Asif stated that defunct organization of Tehreek-e-Taliban is operating from Afghan soil to spread terrorism in parts of Pakistan. Pakistan security forces and civil military leadership are determined to eliminate the menace of terrorism, and heroic sacrifices of brave soldiers have further strengthened resolve of nation.
Now, to discuss this issue in detail, we've been joined by Dr. Manzoor Afridi, who is a foreign affairs analyst. Dr. Saab, thank you very much to have joined us in the studios. Dr. Saab, we have had the 40th meeting of the NSC, the second round of which was held yesterday. A lot of important decisions were taken pertaining to terrorism, pertaining to the economic situation in the country. How important are such moods, and how important is it also for all the important agencies in Pakistan to move at a very rapid pace to curtail all that is happening in Pakistan?
Umar Khalid Saab, it is really important if you discuss about the National Security Committee meeting. It is a comprehensive discussion which covers the basic challenges faced by Pakistan, whether those are political, economic, or security challenges. No doubt that nowadays Pakistan is going through such turmoils. I mean, the political instability or the volatile situation or the economic situation, we can say, the loans, the IMF linkages with Pakistan and all these things. And recently Pakistan has taken out from the FATF grey list. So all these things that no doubt Pakistan has done achievements while having control on the terror financing and the money laundering, but still we have a long road to travel on. So in this situation, it is important, pertinent, where all the stakeholders, they work together and they discuss not only the foreign challenges but also the domestic problems. So in this situation, the security landscape of Pakistan or the economic situation here, so all these are interconnected, and no country, I think, if we call a country as a welfare state, so it means that it is for a common man. And Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif repeatedly said that relief should be given to the common man. I mean the lower middle class and the middle class, where most of Pakistan is Pakistan's population that composed of. So in a right time and a high time, this meeting has been held, and now we have to be alert. I mean, everybody in Pakistan, in what capacity he or she is, should do its own responsibility, have to come up and have to overcome all these challenges, difficulties, hurdles in the economic sector and political also, and security.
All right, Dr. Saab, that is very important. Another point that you highlighted that was also very important is the interlinkages that is present between the security challenges and the economic challenges that pertain to our country. Because if it is one that causes the other and vice versa. When it comes to security challenges, we have seen our Prime Minister saying that there's going to be zero tolerance as far as terrorists are concerned. Khaja Asif Saab also gives more detail about where the defunct TTP are operating from, that is from Afghanistan. How is our approach to security challenges evolving in your point of view?
Look, Pakistan is a country where it has not only relations with its neighbors, but very good relations with major powers. United States is there, Russian Federation, and also People's Republic of China. So Pakistan can't ignore any of these because of Pakistan's geostrategic position, because of these major powers, influences and interests in this region of South Asia and Persian Gulf and the Indian Ocean. So we know about the geopolitics and also the contours, the perimeters of the geoeconomics. So by this I mean that it's not only Pakistan to handle these issues single-handedly. So it is important for other stakeholders, I mean international community, also to take care of this aisle. By this I mean,
you talk of the international community. I'd like to understand, there was a Doha agreement. Pakistan was party to that as well. In fact, Pakistan was the one that brought both parties together for the Doha agreement. What is happening now from Afghanistan, this trickling of terrorist activities, isn't it a violation, a clear violation of the Doha agreement?
I think, of course, it is. Because it was said in that agreement that Afghanistan soil should not be used against any country, including the United States, against its neighbors. So if it is happening, so it is a kind, it's violation of that Doha agreement, because the Afghanistan government is bound to abide by all the SOPs or all the norms of the Doha agreement. So I think this region is again going to be in a difficult situation, like after the withdrawal of the Soviet Union. So if America was there, NATO forces, they were existing in Afghanistan for 20 years and they could not control the situation, or they left Afghanistan in such a condition where they have no regular trained forces, where they have no strong institutions or the financial setup. So in this situation, it is very likely to have such kind of mechanism or all these things.
When you talk of mechanism, Dr. Saab, I'd like to understand, do we need to update our counterterrorism strategies as far as the way we operate against all such defunct elements or terrorist elements that trickle down from across different borders, whether it be from India or whether it be from Afghanistan, or from India through Afghanistan into Pakistan? How important is it for us to also, as you yourself said, have linkages with other important world powers such as the US, that has said that it wants to work with Pakistan on counterterrorism? Do you feel this is high time that both countries, or Pakistan with other important countries such as China, such as the Central Asian countries, steps up its counterterrorism efforts?
I think no two opinions on this argument, and you rightly said, very well said, that a mechanism should be adopted. And for this, if we look to the major powers, by this I mean the United States of America. So what it had to be done, it's not doing. Right. So in this situation, what we have
but
to
the
do,
resolve is there from the US side to help Pakistan as far as counterterrorism strategies are concerned.
But we know about the blame game, we know about the do more policy and all these things from the United States. So in this situation, regional mechanism, and I repeatedly said in different discussions and talk shows, that regional mechanism, that is the best option. By
and
this
when
I
you
mean
say regional mechanisms, which countries need to be involved in this mechanism?
Russia, China, Central Asian republics, Pakistan, Turkey, Iran. All these countries, they have the potential to at least to decrease this volatile situation in this regard. Shanghai Cooperation Organization is there. Pakistan is a member. The three countries,
India is also a member, if you
India
remember
is
well.
also a member. So it is also in the interest of India to talk about this.
Really?
There is.
Do you feel India wants to talk?
Well, every country has its own objectives and interests. But in broader context, if we see for South Asia and for regional prosperity, so it is in the interest of India. India should and must participate in this. There is, RATS, Regional Anti-Terrorist Structure,
yes.
with an SEO. So it is working very well. How this SEO organization has solved its problems, I mean mainly the border disputes, the reduction in the border troops of China, Russia, Tajikistan and Kyrgyzstan, they have done. So Afghanistan is also a very good player within Shanghai Cooperation Organization and in a dialogue partner status or an observer status. Afghanistan is there, and all these countries, they are also really concerned. So I mean that we have to look from another angle, from another canvas to the Afghanistan situation, and that is the regional approach, regional mechanism, and through the platform of Shanghai Cooperation Organization. I think that if not all, most of the Afghanistan problem or problems of this region, it can be solved.
What has led, Dr. Saab, in your point of view, to the resurgence of such hydra heated threats such as the TTP or even the ISK?
These, I think, it can be continued in future as well because of the Afghanistan situation. ISKP is still there in Afghanistan. We know about it, and about the fragile economic condition or not having a strong hold or grip on the security paradigm of Afghanistan by the Taliban government. So I think these things, it will be continued, and it is not a good omen.
So do you feel, Dr. Saab, it is because of the situation in Afghanistan or the lack of proper control on such organizations that has led to the resurgence of these defunct organizations?
I think both are responsible.
Okay, all right. Coming to the mechanism that you talked about, and you said that was very important under the current circumstances, how important is also having a people-centric socio-economic development to crush such militancy?
That is really, really important, because if we ignore the common man, And in this 21st century, look to the welfare state concept, right, everywhere in Europe or in America, what it is trying. So it is everywhere, even within the socialist regimes, right? They also talk about the welfare state. So if your common man is happy, if he is satisfied, I think most of your problems, those can be solved. So in this situation, we have to concentrate on the common man, on the masses, on their welfare, on their projects of development, infrastructure development. And one thing is also very much important, those areas which were hit by such incidents in the last 20 years in the war on terror after the 9/11, especially the tribal areas of Pakistan or some areas of Balochistan or some maybe of Sindh or Punjab, those areas must be elevated. Economically.
Socio-economic development.
Socio-economic development is very much
But that is also dependent on economic development in our country, and we are facing with certain economic issues that were also discussed during the NSC, and you said all of these are interrelated as well. This said, how should one curtail TTP? We've heard Khaja Asif Saab openly giving a statement about how it is operating from within Afghanistan. From the Pakistani side, what needs to be done on the military level, on the political level? What, in your point of view, needs to be done urgently?
I think 3-4 things are necessary. One, that is the patronage of the United States, right? If United States was there to have talks with the Afghan Taliban, so why not that it also should care now about the Afghanistan or about the situation in Pakistan, and what kind of role Pakistan has played while dealing with this in the war on terrorism with the United States, the frontline state, ally, or whatever the titles were given to Pakistan. So their thing should be keep in mind by the United States. Second, more and more consultation with Afghanistan, right? And
but I mean, we've had consultation with Afghanistan. We've had Hina Rabbani Khar Sahiba going very recently to visit her counterparts in Afghanistan. But do you feel that the Afghan government understands the importance of curtailing terrorist elements within its country?
They have to think about, I mean, if situation in Pakistan is disturbed, so there's also not in the interest of Afghanistan. They have to think over it. So like United States, it continued years and years to have a kind of negotiations or to have a working relationship with its enemy, I mean Taliban, and they succeeded by signing the Doha Agreement. So this series of negotiations or consultations or visits, bilateral visits between Pakistan and Afghanistan. Third thing, the border management, that is also really necessary.
But as far as border management is concerned,
there are so many issues. Yes.
Whenever we fence the borders, the Afghan side starts complaining about it.
No doubt, the dual line, the old issue there is, and the cross-border firing, and all the closure of the border for the economic activities or even for the people movements and all these things. And the fourth thing, I think what's necessary, that is people-to-people contact. I mean, the tribal leaders, the tribal elders, they can play an important role in this regard as well. I mean, the people diplomacy, what we say, are because Afghanistan is a tribal society, and in our tribal region, so there are influential people. They have families and family linkages. They have relationship, and so many, Afghan refugees, they are hosted by Pakistan. Still they are here. So in this situation, they can also play. So a series of jirga, what we can say.
But hasn't the series of jirgas also taken place in the past? Do you feel it has reaped results that are tangible enough to be reused this time?
I think it can be used. Yes, after the FATA merger, now they can be given a new role, right? I mean, the tribal elders, they are in a situation after the FATA merger that all the concessions or their status, it was taken back. So in this situation, I think they can be remotivated in this regard to play their role while bring together both Pakistan and Afghanistan, especially the people of both countries, and also to talk with TTP or other elements for the prosperity of region, especially Pakistan and Afghanistan.
All right. Finally, our Prime Minister has also talked about an economic roadmap that is going to be established to help revive the economy, provide relief to the people. This was also briefed during the NSC by our Federal Minister, Ishaq Dar Saab, and different decisions have been taken regarding the economy, which includes import rationalization, preventing illegal currency outflows, Hawala business, and also improving agricultural output and manufacturing sector to ensure food security. How important are these steps as well?
Really important. Pakistan has to work on it. I mean, already working, but all the hurdles what we have in the way, we have to remove them. I mean, the Iran-Pakistan gas pipeline is really important, and Pakistan's can do progress economically through it. The TAPI, Turkmenistan, Afghanistan, Pakistan, India pipeline already has been inaugurated, and it's Turkmen side and also some in Afghanistan already completed, but situation in Afghanistan, it was a hurdle. So now we can revitalize it. Also the CPEC, all the projects, infrastructure development or the special economic zone, the industrial parks or the energy projects or the upgradation of roads and railways, scientific cooperation, the cooperation in agriculture from China to Pakistan under the umbrella of CPEC. These are really important. Another thing that the legal frameworks or the conventions, international conventions where Pakistan is cooperating with them, like FATF or some others, and also Pakistan has to look inside, I mean domestically, about the institutions or rules, have to, to make some new or addition in them, have to curb all these things, the illegal money transfer and such kind of other
all right
stuff.
Thank you very much, Dr. Manzoor Afridi, foreign affairs expert, who have joined us to have talked to us about the decisions taken in the aftermath of following, in fact, the NSC's meeting that was held yesterday, and of course statements that have emanated from our defense minister as well as our prime minister as far as terrorism are concerned. And as you said, terrorism and economic prosperity are more or less interlinked. We need to be economically strong to defeat all forms of terrorism. Thank you very much, Dr. Musab.
Pleasure.
This brings to an end our first segment, ladies and gentlemen, and let's come to our second story of the day, and that concerns COVID-19. We've talked about it many a times in the last few years when it was at its peak, but now there are renewed fears because there are new variants that have emanated in China, and there is an outbreak of COVID-19, and a lot of different sectors in Pakistan are concerned whether there will be a trickle-down effect of COVID-19 in Pakistan. The NDMA, the NIH have taken important decisions in that regard. More in the following report.
The world is scrambling to stem COVID crisis with global and domestic health and economic implications. Many countries are bracing for sweeping wave of infection as new variants of coronavirus spread at a rapid pace in parts of the globe, including India, China, and the United States. National Command and Operations Center cautioned the new variant of coronavirus currently spreading in China poses a threat to Pakistan as well. Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif has directed to ensure an emergency basis 100% anti-COVID-19 vaccination for children aged 5 to 12. A meeting of National Disaster Management Authority reviewed the COVID-19 situation and surveillance mechanisms at airports and expressed confidence in anti-COVID strategies and national preparedness regime. NDMA instructed the NIH to issue precautionary advisories for educational institutes, social gatherings, and communities. Health Minister Qadir Patel assured the government had strengthened the role of border and health services in Pakistan to deal with the threat of any subvariant of COVID-19 as per NIH statistics. The present positivity rate stands at 0.4% with 15 positive cases. Advanced preparation of healthcare system, accurate and shared data collection, adherence to COVID SOPs, and open communication are all important to battling mass coronavirus infections.
Dr. Sardar Shoaib Khan joins us online. He is a consultant in general medicine. Thank you very much, Dr. Saab, to have joined us. Dr. Saab, we've talked many a times in the past as well as far as COVID-19 is concerned. These new variants that emerge, whether it be BF7 or the other variants, how virulent are they? Should we be afraid?
Assalamu alaikum to you, Umar, and all your listeners. Thank you for inviting me. Yes, we've talked about this COVID now for the last 2 years, and every time we discuss, there is a new variant. And again, these BA variants, BQ variants, and BF variants that are sweeping all around the world. And these are, about virulency. Yes, the data from China is that these new variants are actually more virulent compared to the previous Omicron variants, and that is why these new variants are now replacing the old Omicron variant and spreading more rapidly. So the virulence, as far as virulence goes, yes, they spread more readily.
All right, Dr. Saab, also as far as being how should I say, afraid of these two variants, should we be afraid of these variants? Are they as how should I say, can they take lives of people as we've seen in the previous variants such as Delta or Omicron, or do you feel these will cause disease but will not be fatal?
So that is a very important question. Should we be afraid? I would say that we should be cautiously optimistic, but also optimistically cautious. Because there are positives and there are slight negatives. The positives are that Pakistan is a young population and we've fared well as a country before. 95% of our population has had at least one vaccine. Vast majority of our population has already been infected, which means that all of us carry some form of immunity against COVID. Yes, these new variants may evade some of that immunity, but it's likely that the disease that we are going to get from it is going to be milder, and the death toll will be lower, just like before. So as I said, we should not completely forget about it, but at the same time, I also feel that there are lots of positives here.
What measures need to be taken by the general public, those that has been vaccinated and that has not yet been vaccinated or doesn't want to get vaccinated?
Yes, I mean, about vaccination, there is a slight issue. The older vaccines that are available in Pakistan, the Modernas, the Pfizers, and the Sinovacs, they may not be as good against this new variant. There is a new vaccine that's available in USA, which is a bivalent vaccine, and it is more potent against these new variants. However, it is not yet available in Pakistan. However, still, we do know from research that any kind of vaccine still offers protection, and one, it offers protection from the disease, but secondly, even if you do get the disease, if you're vaccinated, you're likely to get a milder disease. You're less likely to get hospitalized, you're less likely to get severe disease, and the death toll will be lower. So yes, anyone who's not vaccinated should get vaccinated, especially those people who are vulnerable, people who have asthma, who have respiratory conditions, who have heart disease, who have kidney disease, diabetes, obesity. All of these comorbidities increase our chance of getting seriously ill if we get infected by these viruses. So yes, we should get vaccinated, and secondly, most importantly, we should try and avoid crowded places if possible, and if we are going to go in the crowded places, we should be wearing masks wherever possible.
But we all remember, Dr. Saab, in the past as well, when we had the Delta, the Omicron, and all the other variants, there were a lot of people who were not wearing masks, were not following the protocols that needed to be followed. And there are those who do not believe, there are those who believe in the herd immunity. How to convince those people to follow the protocols now that we have certain new virulent variants that are present and that could infect people?
So again, this is a difficult, difficult for a country like Pakistan, where education is not as common. People's beliefs are, on health and modern technology are not as strong as maybe some of the other Western countries. And it's difficult to convince people. I would say that we should continue the strategy that has done well for us in the past, which is to try and spread as much awareness as possible through schools, through media, through newspapers, through word of mouth, to tell people about the problems of this disease, to tell them about the precautions that they should take. And then we hope that enough people will follow those advice, enough people will get vaccinated, and the natural defense mechanisms of a country like Pakistan, the healthy, the young population and the previous immunity will come to our rescue.
The educational institutions are also one of the likely areas where such infections could be spread very easily. Do you feel all the different public and private education institutions now need to take the necessary precautions after the winter break is over?
Well, I would suggest to everyone, including individuals and to institutions, that they should follow the NCOC. Look, Pakistan has had this NCOC throughout this COVID vaccination. You'd probably agree with me that NCOC has been exemplary. They've always been giving us the right advice, and that advice, especially the vaccine rollouts about when to wear mask, when should it be mandatory, all of their advice has always been good. And though NCOC always has the most information, they know about the recent data, they know about the variants that are there. They are the ones that should be leading the country, telling the institutions what to do. And yes, if it comes to the point where it's a very widespread COVID, I mean, we should not forget that at the moment the positivity rate in our country is still less than 0.5%. The daily positive cases that is being reported by NIH has not exceeded 30 currently. There's only 20-25 people in ICU at the moment. There's no COVID
And
deaths
no
in the
death
last
in the
4
last
or 5 days.
25 days as well. That's also very important.
Yes, so there is a widespread COVID in China, and we are next to China. So yes, we should be cautious, but we should also remember that our population is different to Chinese population. China has had zero COVID policy for the last 2 years, which means that their population is not widely had the infection of COVID. But in Pakistan, vast majority of us have had the infection, which gives us the best immunity. So it is not a foregone conclusion that the COVID wave that will come in China will come to Pakistan. It might not come to Pakistan. So yes, we should be ready, but we should hope for the best.
Dr. Saab, also the measures that have been taken by the NDMA and instructions that have been given to the NIH, whether it be having the two important tests at the airports or at the Torkham border, how important are these measures as well?
So yes, this is vital. We said that NCOC has been really good, but they have been good because they've had the up-to-date information about which variants are coming into our country, and to catch them early and to take early steps. So information is key here. So people placing these measures on the borders will make sure that as these as the travel happens and people move to and fro to different countries. Whenever these new variants are introduced in our country, we will know about them. And then this information will help NCOC decide what to do, when to introduce masks, where to introduce masks, what to do with the vaccination rollout, all of that steps will need information. So genome sequencing, regular testing, and then regular compilation of that data is vital.
Dr. Saab, we've seen the economic impact of COVID-19 when it surfaced a couple of years back. Should we foresee such a similar economic impact this time around, or do you feel the world is prepared?
Well, I think it's unlikely to be as bad as before. The reason being that the vast majority of the world, the America, the Europe, the Asia and Africa, they've gone through these succession of COVID waves, which means that people are aware there's vaccines available, there is some drugs available to treat it, there is a readiness in these people, so and they know how to deal with the economic situation as well. The only negative point here is that China is obviously almost 50% or 40% of the world economy, and there is a likelihood that there will be a big wave of COVID in China because China has done away with their zero COVID policy. So how will that affect the world economy? That remains to be seen. So again, from economic point of view, again, we should be optimistic and we should hope for the best, but we should not, rest on our laurels. We should be ready because we are close to China and we have very close trade to China. And if China is affected, then we can be and will probably be affected.
Dr. Shoaib, we've seen so many different variants of COVID-19 over the years. Is it something that we are going to see in the next couple of years or maybe a decade or so as well? Should we be ready for new variants coming every year or every few months?
Yes, I mean, when we talked last time, you asked me this question and we were not sure 100%. But now, if you look back at the COVID timeline, as time's gone on, the emergence of the new variant has actually increased. This last year there's like 6, 7, 8 different variants. It's very difficult to keep one's updated about them. In China there's a different one, in America there's a different one, UK there's a different one. So we should actually now be this should be agreed now that COVID will continue to evolve. There will be new variants every year, just like influenza. This is not alien. This happens to us with influenza. There's a new variant of influenza every year, and we all get, a vast majority of the population gets flu every year. Similarly, we are probably gonna get COVID every year or every other year. So, but the positive thing here is that because we've got previous immunity to it, we're not going to get as badly ill as with the first time.
But Dr. Saab, herein I'd like to understand something. When you talk of immunity once you get COVID, there are a lot of different theories whether the immunity lasts for a couple of months or maybe more or less a year, also depending on the situation of the person, whether he or she is immunocompromised or not. Then how to move forward? What should be the individual responsibility of every person, myself, yourself, and all the others included?
So that's a good question. Let me answer the scientific point of view, scientific part of that question first. So about immunity, look, our immunity is in multiple phases. Yes, there are antibodies that stops the virus, but there are then certain cells that remember that virus. Now, the way we detect our immunity is by measuring the amount of antibodies, and the research tells us the number of antibodies starts declining from as early as 2 to 3 months. But some form of immunity, it may not be antibodies, but it may be in another form of immunity, just like might be cells or some kind of memory cells that remember that virus. So some kind of immunity does actually last longer, and whatever new variant comes, there is still going to be some protection against it. So yes, the immunity does last to some point, and there's some kind of immunity will be there, but certainly with time the immunity will dwindle. Now, the second part of your question was about the responsibility. I would say that all of us should keep ourselves updated with all the new guidelines. We should at least know what NCOC wants us to do. What is the guideline in terms of our institutions, schools, hospitals, testing, vaccination, all their advice. And travel advice, again, that's really important. Where to travel, and if you're traveling somewhere, what tests you're going to do, how to wear masks, which masks, etc., etc. We should try and follow the advice of the authorities, because they are the ones who have the best science, the most up-to-date science, and the most up-to-date information. This is what I would say is the most important responsibility of each individual.
When you talk of guidelines, there's a very important fact of social media and the responsibility of social media platforms as well. We have seen in the past as a lot of fake and false information regarding COVID disseminated between individuals, and individuals believing it as if, it was the reality, when in fact it was far from that, and many people got COVID because of following such guidelines. How important is it also for all the important institutions? Let's talk of Pakistan, of the NIH, of the NDMA, of the NCOC, to educate people as to which guidelines are to be followed and which are to be not even read on social media.
Again, you mentioned social media. There's been lots of positives with social media, but this is one of the things that has not gone well, is the false information in social media that spreads very rapidly. And as you rightly said, people have health gets affected by it because they follow the wrong guidelines. Now here, NCOC, you mentioned all these institutions, not only those, the educated people of the community, it's their responsibility as well. We as doctors, you as media personnel, PT World, other channels, newspapers, the religious leaders, other educated people need to talk about this. We need to talk about the wrong information, make sure we not only provide the good information, but we also reject the wrong information. Only doing it once will not be enough. We will have to keep doing it. We have to keep tabs on what new information is coming on, what is being said on social media, what is going on Twitter, Facebook, etc. And as soon as this new information comes on board, we should be, these institutions, we as individuals, we as private people, we should always try and counter it with the right information. The best answer to falsehood is truth, actually, and that is the way we can tackle it.
when we speak of gatherings, Dr. Saab, it's also very important other religious gatherings, whether it be on different, the different, religious sermons that happen on Fridays, on Eids, and other occasions. How important is it also for our local religious leaders to disseminate the right information amongst their followers whenever they come in the mosques?
Yes, again, this is a very important point. In Pakistan, I don't know if there's been a survey on it, how many people read the newspaper or how many people, watch different channels, and how many people go to the religious sermons, and Friday prayers. This could be one of the most potent way of disseminating information through our religious institutions. And here lies the education bit. I mean, we need to educate the religious leaders first. Hopefully, they will be, listening to it and agreeing to it, and then they will hopefully disseminate the information to these people who are coming to these sermons. And if you hear something from Dr. Shoaib or Umar, it may not be as well agreed by people, but if they listen to it from their in the Jummah khutbah, they may be more amenable to listening to it. So we should use all of these mediums of education and try to educate people. When we go to the masjid, we need to make sure, and to the mosque, we should make sure that we are healthy. If I'm having any respiratory symptoms, I should try not to go. Wear masks, make sure that we are following the precautions, and then again about the information, the religious leaders, they should be used to provide the right information to the population.
That is so true. And also, we've talked about wearing masks. You've talked about, getting together of people on different occasions, whether it be in mosques or otherwise in educational institutions as well. Do you feel that it is time to start wearing the mask, or do you feel we need to start being wary about it before it becomes too late, and that we need to go toward we are not at that stage of wearing masks? Do you feel we are in that middle where we don't know how it's going to move forward? Or do you feel we should start taking the precautions like wearing the masks or sanitizers, or the spacing between people, as we had discussed in the past as well? Do you feel these are pertinent steps to be taken right now, or should we wait?
So again, I would say that this advice and these precautions should be stratified in terms of the risk. So people who are elderly, above 65 years of age, people who have diabetes, who have heart disease, who have respiratory conditions, people who are more vulnerable and more likely to get serious disease. These people, I would say that COVID or no COVID, you should always try and avoid crowded places. You should always try and wear masks, use hand sanitizers, and try and get vaccinated as soon as any vaccination is available. Not only for COVID, but also for pneumonia, for influenza, because any of these diseases, if gotten by these vulnerable people, they are more likely to get seriously ill. So same applies here. If you are vulnerable, you should be the first one to wear the mask. We should be the first one to avoid crowded places and to get vaccinated. Now, people who are less vulnerable, therein again, it depends on your the work that you do. I'm a doctor, and I work with acutely unwell patients. I do the OPD, and there's likelihood that people with COVID can come to my OPD. So I should be more wary. People who are nurses, paramedics, who have public dealing, people who are in crowded places, that's their job to talk to people. They are more likely to get these infections. But people who are less, who are young and who are not as, going into crowded places as much as other people, they are probably, the advice will be less, stringent for them.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Sardar Shoaib Khan Saab, Consultant General Medicine, to have talked to us about the outbreak of the new variants of COVID-19 in China and how that could impact Pakistan. Pakistan is starting to take the right precautions as far as the directives that have been taken by the NDMA and the NIH that has been instructed in that regard as well. And of course, the measures, as has been in the past, will be effective, because we've seen in the past as well how Pakistan has combated COVID and has combated it quite effectively compared to many other countries in the region. Let's come to our last story, ladies and gentlemen. Defense Minister Khaja Asif Saab has announced today that the Federal Cabinet has approved the National Energy Efficiency and Conservation Plan, which is a policy that is aimed at saving energy. The timings for the markets and the wedding halls have been curtailed. 8:30 p.m. is now the time for the markets to remain open, and 8:10 p.m. is the time limit for the wedding halls to remain open. Also, the production of fans run on electricity is going to be halted by July. This has been said by the defense minister as well. He has said that inefficient fans use around 120 to 130 watts of electricity, and around the world fans are available that use 60 to 80 watts. So we will of course be going towards that. Also, all in government buildings and offices and officers will consume efficient energy under the plan. From the 1st of February this year, incandescent bulbs will not be manufactured, and additional taxes are going to be imposed on the ones that have been imported. Also, the use of conical geysers is going to be made mandatory within a year's period. The government has also decided to use street lights alternatively. The defense minister said it's going to give us a lot of conservation of electricity and also will save a lot of money. He has said the government will also be introducing electric motorbikes this year, and he talked about how Pakistan is using oil, and these e-bikes are going to be not only effective but also more efficient as far as the usage of energy is concerned. Also, formation of a committee has been decided to look into the work from home policy, and the process will be completed within 8 to 10 days. The government, as far as the minister said, is also bringing a building code for the construction sector, as the maintenance cost for cement, iron and glass is quite high. The defense minister has said that this plan is going to be enforced immediately, and the cabinet is going to monitor it. So the right steps under the current situation. Let's see and let's hope how the country evolves across it and how we follow these measures. With that, we come to an end of today's Newsroom. We'll see you inshallah with new stories and segments that pertain to us, you and Pakistan. Allah Hafiz.